He said, there's 13 steps to becoming a Satanist, and you've done almost all of them already. All I had left to do, I had to slice my left thumb and bleed onto a document. And on the final page of a 5-page document, I agree to sell my soul to the devil. We're talking, and he says, basically in a nutshell, Satan has chosen you to be the next high wizard. And my heart skipped a beat. These guys are sought after by everyone. Actors, rock stars, kings, queens, presidents, diplomats. My first month, I was chosen almost on my 21st birthday. And it was a few days later, I found myself in Bohemian Grove.
Hello and welcome back to the Almost False podcast, where I interview regular people with incredible stories. Today's story is one of the darkest you will ever hear and is very graphic, so watch at your own discretion. Zachary King is a former Satanist and has been on a journey to expose the secrets of the groups he used to be a part of. But Zachary was not any Satanist. He used to be one of the 10 most powerful people in the entire world, working with names that all of you would be very familiar with. And to end up in that position is not something that happens overnight. So in order to understand his life, we had to go all the way back to his childhood, where everything started.
It was the very first day of the 5th grade. And this kid came up next to me and he said, meet me in the bathroom at the first break. Now, this is 1976. There's no internet. There's no way to look up, hey, if somebody says, meet me in the bathroom, don't go. So this kid tells me to meet, and I was like, okay, I don't know any better. So I walk into the bathroom at 10:20, and there's about 49 other kids in there, boys and girls just milling around, waiting for something to happen. And they tell us that we're going to turn out the lights and we're going to chant a phrase into the mirror 11 times. And if we do it correct, the spirit of a burn victim will show up in the mirror. Now, none of us believe what we're being told. You know, I haven't ever seen this in a movie or a cartoon. I haven't ever had a friend tell me. I've got an older brother. He didn't tell me he did this. My parents have never told me this story. Never done it at church. Never heard this anywhere. But this kid, same age as me, is telling me this story. And it's like, all right, let's try it and see what happens. So they turn out the lights. That alerts everybody that something's different, because some of us are still scared of the dark. So now all of a sudden we're in a totally dark room, and you're in there with 49 other kids, and we chant the phrase 11 times. And suddenly the mirror flickers and there's a face there that's not one of us. And it looks like the spirit of a burn victim. I mean, his face is melted partially. Some of the upper lip is melted over down to the bottom lip, over the snarling teeth. And 49 kids ran screaming out of the bathroom. In my talks, I say one child, he's an idiot. I call him an idiot because it was me, stayed in the bathroom and thought, I did this. I chanted this phrase 11 times. And I made this face appear. This is incredible. Now, remember, at 10 years old, you're not always the sharpest tack. That mirror land there that I'm looking at is not some distant land that I'm able to tap into. And it's not the room behind the mirror. If you're seeing it in the mirror, it's standing next to you. So there's a demon standing next to me that I can't see, that I'm seeing the reflection in the mirror. And notes ended up being sent home because a couple of kids got hurt. Not like bumps and bruises hurt. I mean, broken arm, broken leg hurt. And they didn't care about kids' spiritual well-being. All they knew was that kids were getting hurt and they were going to be sued. So they sent notes home. And I had to take this note to my dad. My dad's in the den. He's reading the newspaper. And my dad had been a sniper in the Marines. And there wasn't a whole lot of love in his voice ever. So usually he gets this note and he just signs it and throws it back at me. But today he read it. and he got this scowl on his face. And in his usual loving tone, he said, "Have you been playing this game?" Being terrified of my dad as I was, I told him the absolute truth. No. So that I wouldn't get caught at school, get suspended for 3 days, and spend those lovely 3 days with my dad, I started playing the game at home. Now, when I played it at school, I played it once a day. Now that I play it at home, I wake up, play the game, go to the bathroom, play the game, wash my hands, play the game, brush my teeth, wash my face, play the game, go out, have breakfast, come back, brush my teeth again, play the game. Before I leave for school, I've played the game 10 times at least. When I get home from school, there's usually nobody there. My parents aren't home till late at night. So I'm playing that game anywhere from 25 to 50 times a day. Every time I play, I get the scary face. But, you know, I attribute the scary face to the law of bulldogs. Bulldogs are one of the friendliest dogs in the world with the ugliest face. They didn't choose their face. Maybe this person had luck of the draw. Maybe they were born with that face. Maybe that face melted in a fire. They can't control what face they got. Maybe they're a nice person. I'm not realizing at this time that I'm looking at a demon.
Right. And why did you do it so much? Because it seemed like you do it a few times, the face appears. And from the story that I've heard, the face didn't move. It was just a mobile face in the mirror, right? So why were you doing it so much?
Because I could make the face appear. If you could do something that no one else seemed to do, I mean, it went through school and they sent notes home and told you she had to stop. Most kids just stopped. Some kids kept playing it. I don't know why they did, because you're risking being suspended for 3 days. Just go home and play it. I did it at home and it worked again. You know, I could play this anytime I wanted. And every time I did it, the face appeared. You know, it didn't talk to me. It wasn't a different face. It seemed to be the same face every time. So it's kind of like it's familiar. And I got the feeling like he was my friend, even though he didn't say anything to me. He didn't talk to me, but I could make this face appear. All I had to do was stand in the bathroom in the dark and chant this phrase. And this guy shows up.
Okay. Well, that, as weird as it sounds, was the gateway to the next part, which I would call kind of like real magic because it has tangible effects in your life. But you were already interested in magic from a young age. You were wondering if that was real. Then you had that episode in the bathroom and then you started doing it. So obviously you're like, there's something here, and people didn't want you to play it, but you felt empowered because you could do something that most people didn't. But
Right.
It started to become more and more intense when you added other spells with it. Can you explain where you got those spells in the first place and why did you start doing that?
I was playing D&D with a bunch of older teenagers, and there was 2 of us that were playing D&D that were young kids. I was 10 and another kid was also 10. And I was always the wizard or the sorcerer in that. And I started noticing that my magic spell works every single time. Now, I'm not doing a real magic spell. You know, you roll the die and find out, or the dungeon master rolls the die and you find out that you made it across.
Yeah, because for context, for people that don't know, D&D stands for Dungeons and Dragons, and it's a board game. So this is what he's talking about. So you were playing the board game, and in the board game, when you were trying to do something like with the spell, you would always get between a 15 and a 20. So it would always work in the game. That's what you're saying.
Right. And I guess for more context for people, it's a role-playing game. So you play a different role based on what the character you've created. You have a dungeon master that does a lot of things and sets things out. So you're not actually getting to roll the die even. he does that. It's a 20-sided die, and it's a math-based game, so a lot of nerds play. And so I'm having a great time playing this, but my magic always works. So I start thinking, what if I did a magic spell in real life? Not in the game. Just what if I did a real life magic spell and it worked? Now, I know better than to tell anybody I'm going to do a magic spell. I'm a little nerdy kid. I get made fun of enough as it is. I don't need to be made fun of for one more thing. So I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'm going to see if it works. Now, if it doesn't work, I'm probably never going to do magic again. I'll just leave it alone. I'll find something else. I'll start making model cars or something. But if it does work, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. So we have spells in D&D books and the TSR gaming books that it turns out that Gary Gygax, one of the founders of the game, went to Satanists and asked for real spells. So the game would be more authentic. So there was a spell in there to get money because it takes money to run a campaign. So I did a spell for money. And the next day, I did it on a Friday. Saturday, I went out to play and I found a can of tennis balls. I opened it. It was three new tennis balls. Like, that's really cool. But also in the can was a $5 bill. Now, this is 1976. The three most important things in the world to me are comic books, candy bars, and penny candy. Penny candy now will cost you anywhere from 25 cents to 50 cents a piece. When I was a kid, they cost you a penny. So comic books were 15 to 20 cents. Candy bars were 15 to 20 cents. And penny candy was a penny. For $5, I could get 500 pieces of candy. You know, you're a winner. 500 pieces of candy. Man, that's a major treasure trove. But that could have been a coincidence. Somebody had to find that can. So the next weekend, I did it again. And the next day, I went out and I found a $10 bill on the side of the road. Again, everything I want's dirt cheap. And that's 1,000 pieces of candy. But this still could have been a coincidence. So the next weekend, I thought of an even more ingenious idea. I don't know what that face is that's appearing in the mirror, but I'm making it appear from nowhere. Where is it coming from? And how do I get it? Is it coming from heaven or hell? Am I conjuring it from a cemetery? Maybe that's magic. And maybe this is a power that I can somehow harness for myself and do something with it. So I did the magic spell for money in my bathroom at home. And then halfway into the spell, I did the Bloody Mary chant. And when that face appeared, I let it know I was doing a spell for money. And then I finished out my money spell. You know, went to bed that night. Next day, went out to play. And I was at U.S. Sugar in a big unpaved parking lot. And something caught my eye, something bright and shiny. And I ran off to see what that was. When I got to the area, there's nothing bright and shiny there. But there's what looks like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. So I put that in my pocket and I go back to play. And eventually, you know, it's late at night. Everybody's had their bath and everybody's in bed going to sleep. I'm in my bedroom, the light's out, but I'm sitting in my bed with a flashlight over my head, or a sheet over my head with a flashlight in my mouth. And I'm unraveling my rubber bands to see what I got. What is this treasure? And I said it looked like Monopoly money because I'd never seen a $100 bill. And when I unraveled them all, I had $1,000. I had 10 $100 bills.
And that's in 1976.
Yes, that would be worth about $7,000 now. And that as well, think of how many pieces of candy I can get with $1,000.
I mean, it's unlimited pretty much at that point.
No, I didn't spend it all on candy though. I mean, I just got a lot of stuff that a 10-year-old kid shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that, if I did this spell every day and every day it worked like this, that in 1 year I could buy a Lamborghini Countach, which is what I wanted. That was my number one dream car, Lamborghini Countach. Or if I did it for 3 years, I could be a millionaire. I'm not considering that I have to tell my dad, where is all this money coming from? My dad would probably make me stop, doing it.
Right. It was an awkward way to talk about it. So you kept that secret, but also I want to clarify that you didn't find $1,000 every single day. You did that spell every day, and most of the time you get like only a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah, I would do. It took me a long time to run out of $1,000, and when I finally did run out of it, then whenever I would do the spell again, I'd get $20,
which is still significant. Like in today's money, it would be close to like $100 bill, right?
Right.
Imagine finding $100 bill every single day. It's very significant, and I understand why you wanted to go deeper. So kind of got teased, and then it continued to give you a little bit to put you deeper and deeper into magic. But a year after you started doing that, or about a year after you started doing that, you got molested by a teacher in school. And I think that's when things really went to a different level. Can you explain why that was so important in your story?
Well, in my school, your time to go to the bathroom is the 3 minutes in between classes. PE is on the far side of the school, outside. When you come inside from that, you've got 3 minutes to make it all the way to the other side of the school to my next class. It's a math class. So I got in there. I really had to pee really bad. So I put my hand up. Teacher calls on me and I say, can I go to the bathroom? You had 3 minutes in between classes. Why didn't you go then? 3 minutes isn't enough time for me to go to the bathroom and come here. I'd have been late. You'd have given me a detention. I have PE before this. I don't have time to make it. So she gives me the pass, and she tells me not to dilly-dally, not to play in the hall, don't play in the bathroom, go do your job and come back. Okay. So I take that, walk down to the end of the hallway, and go to the bathroom. When I enter the bathroom, there's a noise in there. It sounds like somebody's breathing hard in the bathroom. But I look under all the stalls, there's no feet. And we have like 5 stalls. And then we have a large handicap stall. So there's nobody at the urinals. I walk to the first door, open it, nobody there. Next door, open it, nobody there. Third and fourth doors, nobody there. This is getting uber creepy because I can hear there's somebody in this room, but I'm not seeing anybody anywhere. I mean, I'm checking the ceiling, the corners, vents, somebody hiding. If somebody had been hiding in a vent, that'd have probably scared the crap out of me. Or if I'd have looked up and seen somebody attached to the ceiling. I've seen all those movies, that would have scared me too. But they're not in any of the stalls. And then I open up the final one, and there's a female teacher sitting on the toilet with her skirt hiked up to her waist. I can see her vagina, but I'm 11 years old. I'm not interested in sex. And women are not on my radar whatsoever. I'm not even looking at girls in school. And I don't know what it is. To me, it looks like she has a wound. It looks like somebody cut her or something, and there's something there. And she's playing with it and moaning and writhing and tells me to come in the bathroom. So I come into the stall and she tells me to lock it behind me. So I do that. And then she sexually assaults me. And she ends up pulling down my pants and my underwear, having me lay on the floor, and she climbs on top of me. When we were done, she told me that it was my idea, that I liked it. You have to admit that you liked it. I had to admit that I liked it. And that if I told anybody, I would be expelled from school. I would be arrested. I'd be put in prison. My parents would disown me.
Hey, it's me, and I'm sorry for interrupting this amazing story, but I just wanted to remind you that we have extra content on Locals that you should check out, like the beginning of this conversation or the after show, which talks about the takeaways and practical applications of the testimonies. Go to almostfalse.locals.com or download the Locals app to get free access, unless you want to be missing out. Anyway, the links are in the description. Now, let's get back to the story. So she's telling you that your life is going to be ruined if you tell anybody.
Right. And so I can't tell anyone. I have to keep this a secret. Then I walk back to my classroom where my teacher is saying, you must have had diarrhea to be gone so long, and berates me in front of the entire classroom. Keep in mind, I still haven't peed. I didn't get to go to the bathroom when I was in the bathroom. I can't go now because the teacher won't let me go back. She makes fun of me and then has me sit down. And she says, I hope you had fun in the bathroom, which made me think, did she know what just happened to me? Or is that a routine comment that she would ask anybody? But I don't know. I didn't trust any of the bathrooms after that. I never went back to the bathroom in the middle school again because I didn't want to be sexually assaulted again. And I couldn't do it on the way home because what if she's waiting for me in a different bathroom? So I walked home, peed my pants on the way home, got home and put my clothes in the hamper. And then I took a bath in the hottest water I could tolerate to make myself clean. And I was doing that almost every day. I did that every day for probably 3 weeks, just trying to clean myself from the dirtiness I felt. And that wasn't working. And one day I was thinking about drinking bleach, not to kill myself, because I know that would kill me, but to clean myself from the inside out, because I felt so dirty all the time. And the one thing that made me feel better was magic. When I did magic, I was on top of the world. I felt like nothing could defeat me at any time. So that's what I dove further into. I had a lot of books on magic in the library, and I read those and honed my skills, and I was doing magic for everything. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and the kid, remember I talked about that there were 2 10-year-olds playing D&D at the same time, and then a bunch of older kids. Well, this 10-year-old eventually stopped coming to school, stopped going to church, stopped playing D&D. So I just assumed he moved away. The next year, being 12 years old, he came back to school. And he came back to church and he was playing D&D again. And I was like, hey, where'd you move to? And he was like, we didn't move away. I was just homeschooled. And my parents put me in a different church. And I got different friends. And like, oh, so you've been here this whole time and haven't played with me. And now suddenly you've decided you're going to play with me? And he's like, I found a group of people that are really cool. They're really awesome. They play D&D every weekend and they believe magic is real. Why don't you come check them out? Well, I know magic is real. So, okay. So at my house, my parents have a 26-inch console TV. But going over to this place, they had a 50-inch projection screen TV. And my house, you could watch a lot of G-rated movies or a PG-rated movie if it had been vetted by my dad first. But over there, they have R-rated movies, X-rated movies, triple X-rated movies, triple X-rated movies with kids in it my age. And they told me that what happened to me when I was 11 was very sad and terrible and should have never happened to anybody. But now I can get my power back. I can decide to have sex with anybody I want to. Nobody can tell me no. And if somebody wants to have sex with me and I don't want to do it, I can tell them no. And they'll make me famous. They will put me in movies. And people from all over the world will write in and want to see me perform. So I said, yes, I'd love to do that. They showed me a bunch of movies, vids and loops, and still photos. And all this is naked kids. Most of them, they're anywhere from 3 to 15 years old. Most of the kids being like 8 to 12. And this looks like fun to me. So they introduced me to 3 girls that are sisters. One is 8, one is 11, and one is 14.
How old are you at that time?
12.
Okay.
And these girls are going to teach me how to have sex. Because I don't know anything. And they said, you're going to learn with the 8-year-old first. Once she feels that you know everything that she can teach you, you'll move to the 11-year-old, do the same thing, then move to the 14-year-old. When you graduate the 14-year-old, you'll be good enough to be in movies.
Okay, before we move on, because I definitely want to hear the rest of this. The friend that you had told you to go to this place that were really cool. They were playing D&D. And when you went there, they had all this technology, all this stuff that you couldn't do at home. So you thought it was cool. So you started hanging out there. You had no idea that this was a satanic coven, right? To you, it was just people that were nice to you and were letting you do things that your parent wouldn't.
Yeah, they had a pantry that was filled with boxes of candy bars. And I didn't have to ask permission. And you don't have to walk in there and take 5 at a time. Just walk in and take one. You can go in anytime you want, pick one, eat as many as you want. You don't have to worry about it. Like your dad will tell you, don't eat too much or get sick. Well, they don't tell you that. Just go ahead and eat whatever you want. You get sick, you'll know better next time. At my house, we probably got pizza 3 times in my entire life. Over there, I could get pizza every night if I wanted it. Anything that I want to eat, I just tell them what I want and they'll make it or they'll buy it. The opposite of my house. And my parents were the no police. Same as God.
From the perspective of the 12-year-old, you thought that the Bible was always saying no, your parents were always saying no, and then there was this group that was saying yes, so you started gravitating towards them.
Right. We were taught in the Baptist church that Jesus defeated the devil on the cross 2,000 years ago, and he's no threat to us now. And that the devil is afraid of the Baptist church. So the devil wouldn't be doing anything to me because he's afraid of me because I'm Baptist. But if you truly believe those things, then when you're involved in spiritual warfare, and everybody that's alive is involved in spiritual warfare, if you don't believe that the devil is any threat to you, he can attack you every day with impunity because you don't think it's the devil attacking you.
And he did. He did to you from pretty young. So let's go back now to what you were talking about with the movies. But first, how long was it before the first time you started hanging out with these people and the time that they introduced you and gave you the opportunity to be part of those movies?
I started hanging out with them probably right around my birthday. But that was around the first time I went. It was a couple of days after my birthday. And they showed me all the porn. Like I'd seen every piece of porn they had in their house, probably within the first month of being there. And then they gave me these 3 girls to sleep with around that same time. I agreed that I wanted to be in these movies. This looked like fun. And suddenly I'm interested in girls. And, not only am I interested in girls, but I have the opportunity to see as many girls as I want to naked in real life. Like I'm not just looking at it in a magazine or in a video. I'm going to be with this girl on the bed doing whatever it is we're told to do, and this is very exciting. I find out that these 2 girls are sisters and they have been involved in child pornography. Now, it wasn't called kiddie porn. It wasn't called child pornography. It was called movies. But they'd been in movies since they were all 3 of them 3 years old. And their mother had been involved since she was 3 years old. And when I was with the second girl, and she's teaching me, everything, we hear the back door open up and I freeze because that's the door their mom comes in. And her mom's knocking at the door. And I'm like, don't open the door. And she's like, it'll be okay. And I'm like terrified. I'm thinking her mom is going to be like my dad. It's like she's going to walk in, scream at me, start beating me with something, and kill me. And then once I'm dead, she'll call my dad and tell him what I've done. And then she walks in, speaks to her daughter, speaks to me, talks, invites me to supper, and asks her if I'm learning everything as well as I should, or do I need extra time? And she said, no, he seems to be pretty on time with everything. He's learning everything. He learned everything with, my younger sister first. So he's pretty much on target right now.
So you weren't the first one because she knew how long it should take. So that means that she did it to other people before.
Right. And she said, so how long do you think you'll be with the older sister? She goes, maybe a week or 2. She goes, I think he's pretty much ready now. And I was like, you're not mad? She goes, oh no, this is their job. They know what to do. They're all 3 good trainers. You're in good hands. And she asked me if I could stay for supper. I said, I have to call my parents, and she's like, okay. So I called my dad and he said, yes, that's fine. I'm just like a block behind the house. So I got to stay for supper that night. And then she called my dad and asked if I could stay for a sleepover. But she also has a son. And, I'd be in the son's room. But my dad said, okay, that'd be fine as long as I'm home. This was like a Friday night. So Saturday would be fine, if I come home. And then I said, I don't even know your son. She goes, I just told your dad that. You can be with any of the girls you want to.
That's another part that's important to mention because you were hanging out at a Satanic coven and your parents were claiming to be Baptist. They were going to Baptist church, but they weren't. Actually, they weren't going. They were forcing you to go. But how did they not figure out that you were hanging out there? And why were they so comfortable letting you be with other people?
Because they knew almost everybody that was a member. They knew almost the entire coven. They just didn't know it was a coven. My deacons from my church are coming into my coven all the time. They're not performing sexually, but they seem to know everybody and they're talking with everybody. And it made me comfortable to be there because I'd seen them at church for the last 12 years. So, it seemed like a safe place for me to be. And my parents knew the deacons. They knew And they didn't like all the deacons. They didn't like everybody. Just because they knew people didn't mean they liked them.
Right.
But they liked them good enough for, it seemed safe for me to be there. It didn't seem like anything bad was ever happening. Both my parents worked. They owned 2 companies, and they weren't investigating what was going on. They just saw it on the surface and thought it was okay.
So your parents were comfortable letting you go there because they knew the people, and you were comfortable because they were letting you do things, but you still had no idea that this was a satanic coven. How did you find out, and when did you find out?
I was still 12. Now, remember, I'm starring in these movies. Now, remember too that I'm not realizing that I'm being re-victimized every time somebody has sex with me, because we'll receive letters, and they'd open up the letter. They would have a certain name on the outside of it. Everybody that was in a porno video loop or whatever, we all had fake names. So my name on the screen was Tommy. People would write in, and they would write in the letter, and the letter is written a lot of times in crayon on paper that you would use when you were in first grade. So I don't know how they make you write things now in the first grade, but back when I went to school in 1972, the paper was wider and the spaces were bigger, and you used a fat pencil to write with instead of a regular size pencil. When I was a kid, that's what it was. So you'd get the first grade paper would be sent in with a message written in crayon asking for Tommy to appear with Little Bit. We had a little girl named Little Bit, and nobody ever knew her real name. And we had another girl with a similar name. Her name was Mosquito Bites. So we had Mosquito Bites and Little Bit. And people would request Mosquito Bites to be with Tommy. And they refer to me as the little Hispanic kid. And they would sometimes be very specific in what they wanted to see. And people would read us that. And all of us felt good because we have fans. And our fans are wanting to see us in these movies. And it never occurred to us that these were adults watching the videos. We wouldn't have known the term pedophile back then. I don't know when pedophile came into play. I just don't remember hearing it till probably I was in my 40s. But, it's pedophiles, obviously, that are watching the movies.
Pretending to be kids writing to you or writing requests.
Right. And some of these people wanted like a picture of us, but a naked still picture, and then our autograph on it. So we would do that. And we thought, like I'd write something funny like eat your veggies, something that, kid doesn't want to hear, and not realizing that I'm writing this to an adult.
So in your head, you were famous. You had tons of fans. They told you you'd be famous. So you think that you're this big guy that everybody knows. You have no idea that these are adults requesting things from you. When did you figure it out? And did it coincide with the time that you finally understood that this was a satanic coven?
No, I didn't realize that they were adults until probably I was in my 20s.
Oh, okay.
But when I was 12 years old, this kid came up, there's just an older kid in the coven, came up to me and said, you're in a satanic coven, right? And he took off running. And I laughed it off. Now, remember what I have as a reference point. I used to watch the Adam West Batman show from the 1960s. When Batman was on the screen, Batman and Robin and Commissioner Gordon, they would be upright. The screen would be upright because they're upright and just and honest and law-abiding citizens. And when the Joker, the Penguin, Catwoman, the Riddler, whenever they appeared on the screen was crooked because they were crooked. They were dishonest. So there's clear distinction as to who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. Well, in my life, the bad guys to me tell me no. Dad, I want to go see this. No. Dad, can I go here? No. Dad, this event is happening in Fort Myers. It's only 60 miles away. No. No matter what I wanted to do, the answer was no. That's the bad guy.
And so by default, the people that went against your parents or your dad were the good guys.
Right. Yeah, I want pizza tonight. Here you go. I want McDonald's for lunch. Here you go. I'm going to go in this room and I'm going to have a Snicker bar, a Payday bar, and a Zero bar, and Three Musketeers, and Milky Way, and whatever else I want. And no one's telling me you're making yourself fatter. This is unhealthy. You're going to become diabetic. No girl's going to want to date you. No one's saying any of that. They're just like, do you want another bar?
So when that guy told you you're in a satanic coven, you were thinking that can't be because these are the good people.
Right. These are the good guys.
What happened after for you to find out?
Well, it after like 2 weeks, I was thinking on that comment every day. Like, could he be telling me the truth? Like, it didn't feel like these are the bad guys. These guys do anything I want. Like with these guys, I got to go see the Moody Blues in concert. Whatever the movie was that came out on Friday, I got to go see it the same day I saw the Moody Blues play. I'm getting to do everything I want to do. How could Satan be the bad guy? So I went up to one of the members that I trusted. It was an adult. And I said, hey, I got something to tell you. He was like, okay. I said, you're going to laugh. He goes, all right. I said, I heard this was a satanic coven. Crazy, right? And I'm expecting him to burst out laughing and pat me on the back and tell me to go play. And it's not a satanic coven. But instead, he says, it is. And my heart just dropped into my stomach. And I was like, am I a member? No. Would you like to be?
So this is what I was going to ask you, because you didn't want it to be a satanic coven. You were scared. That's why you didn't want to accept it. And then once you found out, you didn't leave. But that's why the reason you didn't leave is because they were giving you whatever you wanted, right?
I'm thinking about what am I going to lose? Well, I'm addicted to porn. I'm addicted to masturbation. I'm addicted to watching porn and being in it. You got to be 18 to buy porn. I'm 12 years old. I'm having sex almost every day, at least on the weekends. If I quit, that's going to go away. Now, I'm also smoking cigars, cigarettes, pipes, and you got to be 19 to buy tobacco. I'm still 12. I'm drinking almost every day, at least on the weekends. You got to be 21 to buy booze. I'm still 12. I'm taking illegal drugs practically every day. If I quit, this is where I get my illegal drugs. I'll get them for free. So I'm probably going to have to buy them. But what if they cut off my supply? What if I can't get drugs anymore? And there's prettier girls in this coven than there are in my school. The girls in the school won't give me the time of day, except for the ones that I'm sleeping with. But the regular girls in there, they won't even talk to me. But all the girls in my coven, I'm famous. I'm a movie star. I'm having a great time. So Do I want to give up everything that I'm addicted to and go back to the life I had before I joined? Or do I want to side with Satan?
You thought that Satan was the good guy, which is the deception that most Satanists go for. Obviously, you would talk against it today, and we're definitely going to get into that later in the story. But I want to go back to becoming a member, because you learned that this was a satanic coven, and the man you were asking said, "Do you want to become a member?" What are the steps? Because you did become a member. How does that work? Can you explain it?
I had asked, I said, yes, I did want to become a member. And his face lit up. He was excited that I wanted to be a member of it. He had to think that I would say yes, because everything he knows I'm involved in. This is an adult that I trusted. So, I mean, I confided in him. I told him stuff. And he knows that I'm in all these movies. He knows that I'm drinking every day, taking drugs every day, and smoking every day. So he knows if I leave, I'm giving all that up. And they've made sure to give me everything that I asked for and stuff that I don't. They're like, here, try a salad bowl. I was like, what's that? Well, it's just one of every pill. And you just take like 2 and see what happens. Sometimes they enhance each other. Sometimes they can't, cancel each other out. Sometimes you might have a scary experience, but there's a good one, and it'll be positive. So I mean, he knows everything I'm going through. And I was like, sure, what's involved in me joining? He said, there's 13 steps to becoming a Satanist. And you've done almost all of them already. All I had left to do, I had to slice my left thumb and bleed onto a document. Now, left thumb, because it's closest to the heart. The document is 5 pages long. You have to bleed onto 3 pages and sign it in your blood. The blood of Jesus washes away all sin, but not mine. And I sign my name to that. Jesus died for everyone, but not me. And I sign my name to that. And on the final page of a 5-page document, I agree to sell my soul to the devil.
So this is what people talk about. We hear stories about people in Hollywood saying they sold their souls and whatever. A lot of people don't believe it. You're saying it's real, you did it, and this is exactly the form. Is it the same for everybody, or was that just for your coven?
That's for my coven.
But you have to renounce Jesus. That's the main thing. You renounce Jesus. And I'll ask you, with what you know now, is it possible to sell your soul to the devil?
No, it's impossible to sell what you don't own.
So it's deception, essentially.
Right.
Satan makes you think that you're selling your soul so he can keep you more bound in whatever he has you in.
Right. In my talks, I usually have somebody sitting next to me, and I'll ask them what kind of car they drive. And then I ask the audience, who out there can legally sell me this person's car? Nobody puts their hands up. I'm like, why not? And because it doesn't belong to us. It's right. That's why you can't sell your soul. It doesn't belong to you. I mean, you may have heard God died for you. Jesus paid the ultimate price for your soul. You don't own it. You can't loan it. You can't lease it. And you certainly can't sell it. But you may have heard that the devil's a liar. I'm here to confirm. If the devil tells you good morning, get a second opinion.
That's a funny quote. But yeah, and that's why you're a Christian today, because you can't actually sell your soul. And
right, what you have done is given your will to the devil.
Okay, so now let's go back into the story that you were telling me from that vantage point of when you were 12. You became a member by signing this because you had already done the other steps. And right. I think they gave you a robe at that time. So robes are something that we see in like Satanism, Satanic covens. If you see a movie on TV or whatever, there's robes. There's usually a black and a red robe. What do they mean? And what's the difference between them?
Well, you excluded one. There's a white robe.
Okay.
The white robe is the innocent person. And that's what you wear when you first come into the room. They'll have a big coven meeting where they're welcoming you in. And you come in a white robe and they baptize you full submersion in a big, it looked like an upside down demon skull. And you get baptized in that, and it's human blood, pig's blood, and human urine. So they pull you up out of that, and you go into another room and you take a shower. And when you're in there, you get changed into a black robe with a red inverted pentagram. And you come out with the cowl raised up, and it signifies you've been baptized into a world of darkness. And they read the document off that you signed the night before. They show your signature, and you also pull off the Band-Aid and show your thumb. So people see that it's your thumb that was sliced. So it is your blood. And then after everything, they give you a wheel. It's about this big around, and it has a crucifix in the middle. And you can spin it. You spin it upside down, signifying human sacrifice. You grab the arms of Jesus and break them downward, denouncing Christ. And then you have an orgy to celebrate that you're now a Satanist. But the reality is you're celebrating that one day you're going to die and go to hell. And they tell you that this document is going to be forever entwined with this wheel in a vault. And your soul is attached to this. And when you die, of course, Satan will come and claim your soul. And then they gave me, because I'm addicted to magic. I love magic. And I'm always reading whatever I can find, books or magazines, or there's esoteric, weird magazines that talk about magic that they sell in the back of adult bookstores. And so I'm just embracing everything, just absorbing everything that I can. When I officially came into the coven, everybody there that practiced magic shared their Book of Shadows with me. Now, Book of Shadows is your personal book where you write all your spells. So you might have a different way. You might do the exact same spells that I do, but you do them a different way. You do them how they work for you. So then I would read your spell book to see how you do stuff, because there might be stuff in there that I like, where, I'm doing my love spell a certain way and I don't like it, but I like the way you do yours. So I incorporate some of your magic into my magic. And they gave me the red robe, and the red robe is for the mage. That's the official person that does the magic of the coven. So anybody in the coven is allowed to practice magic. But the person with the red robe, when somebody comes in and gives my coven $10,000 to do a magic spell, it's the mage that does it. Now, you can request a particular mage. There might be 5 of us. Or you could just request a mage. And in either case, it's the guy in the red robe that's going to do it. So I never wore my black robe. I wore it when I came out of the room after I'd been baptized, after I'd been taking the shower. I had the black robe for maybe 10 minutes on me. And then when I was done, when I was officially a Satanist, they had me take that one off and put on the red one.
Okay, so pretty much as soon as you got into the coven as an official member, you got the red robe, which means that you're a mage. You would do the magic spells for the coven. You have a book. Your book is called Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifice. And so that's when we're going to get into sacrifices and abortions, because that was a big part of what you were doing as a mage. When did you perform your first abortion, and why is that a big deal?
When I was 14 years old, it was announced that we were going to, all the male members, 12 to 15, were going to sleep with a female member that was 19. And this was her second pregnancy. And she was what's called a breeder. And a breeder intentionally gets pregnant so she can have an abortion. And I was like, all right, that's cool. And then I went home to look up abortion because I didn't know what it was. I knew that my parents one time whispered the word. So I knew it was a dirty word, but I didn't know anything about it. And my dictionary at home was so old, it didn't have the word abortion in it. So I went to the library and found 2 books, both of them 2 inches thick. And I'm not reading 300 pages to find out what an abortion is. So I go back to my coven and ask them, hey, I've got to commit an abortion in 9 months. What's that? And he goes, oh, you're killing a baby. I was like, is that legal? He goes, in the womb, legal. Out of the womb, murder.
So Satanists consider this a baby.
Yes.
And why do they do it so much?
Well, our coven did, we have everything from the simplest of spells all the way up to the most complex spell, which is a hex. And in a hex, if you're going to do a hex, you need to do an abortion with it. If you're going to do something that somebody's willing to pay big money for, you need guaranteed success. So to guarantee your success, you've got to give the devil something he wants. You give the devil something he wants, he grants your request. What he wants is the murder of a baby. So you murder a baby, do it for the devil grants your request, your act is successful.
And this is what we see in ancient cultures with child sacrifices. They would sacrifice their children to have the favor of the gods or whatever favor they wanted. They would do that. And now they do the same thing, but they package it as something that it's not a baby, but it's exactly the same practice that they used to do, right?
It would have been back in ancient times, Baal or Moloch was who they would sacrifice to. And now, I never understood. My dad used to say that people talked out of both sides of their mouth. And I never understood what that meant until 2015, the 15 secret David Daleiden videos came out about Planned Parenthood. And out of one side of their mouth, they say it's a lump of cells, it's just some tissue. And out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying we're selling baby body parts. How do you get baby body parts out of a lump of cells?
Right.
How do you get a brain, a heart, lungs, kidneys, spleen, liver? How do you get those things out of a lump of cells? Don't you need a baby to get baby body parts?
And it checks out.
And so you got one side of their mouth going, it's not really a baby. And out of the other side of their baby, we're getting rich selling baby body parts. And it's like, really? Somewhere there's a disconnect because you're admitting that you're selling baby body parts.
Yeah. So we started talking about this because you did your first abortion at 14 or 15 around that time, because you talked about they had this party and then you were going to abort the baby. It was planned. This lady, you called her a breeder, the 19-year-old. She wanted to do that for whatever spell they were going to do. What was your role as the mage?
They originally told me that it was just a lump of cells. They're just going to scrape out some cells. They're going to vacuum it up with a little vacuum tube, and I'm not going to see anything. But that I needed, for me to do the hex, I needed to get blood on my hands. So it would probably be the mother's blood, and you're not there to hurt the mother. Just get some of her blood and put it on your hands. Then go do your hex. Okay. And so they had me practice, though, with a scalpel and an apple or an orange or a ball of Play-Doh, and practice stabbing each one of these things. And that'll be this lump of cells that you stab. And, just getting blood on your hand. So don't worry about it. It'll be simple. And so that's what I did for 9 months. I went and participated in the orgy with everybody else. And, she was telling me that this was her second pregnancy. And I was like, what's the goal here? And she said, we have as many abortions as our body can handle. And the more abortions we can do, the higher position we get in the end. And that's what it's all about, is power and money. And if she can have 15 abortions, she'll be on top of the world.
And that's why they fight so hard for it. Some people probably are listening to this and they don't believe it. But there was this story a few years ago. I know that you're aware of it. This Satanic church that I think they filed a lawsuit saying that abortion was their religious right.
That's the Satanic Temple. And that was, I think, in Minnesota. They have opened their own abortion clinic in New Mexico. So it's like the Samuel Alito abortion clinic or something like that. Named after, I don't know if it's named after him or his mother, but they're saying his mother should have aborted him, and then Roe versus Wade would not have been overturned.
This is heavy stuff, and I feel like the mothers, especially if some moms have had abortions, are definitely going to relate to how serious of an issue that is. But let's go back to, I guess, your story, because that abortion, I think you performed at 15, but eventually you left and went to college, and you had to leave your coven. But you still were a Satanist, and you wanted to find a new one. How did you find a new coven in this new place you were living in?
Well, I was thinking that this coven was, in my hometown, there were 2 Satanic covens. One had people that I didn't like, that was like, for lack of a better term, white trash. They were just bad people. And it made sense that they would be in a Satanic coven. Bad people joining a bad group. My group seemed to be nice people. Ultimately, both groups were Satanists. But you had to be in the know to know these Satanic covens were there. I didn't know. If that kid at 12 years old had not recruited me, I would have never joined. I wouldn't have known there was a Satanic coven there. I passed by that house with the 3 girls in it almost every day. I never knew that they were in a Satanic coven, or that they were starring in child pornography, or that they were trainers for kids that didn't know anything about sex. And I live a block away from them. So all this is going on under my nose that I didn't know about. When I go to a big city, how am I going to find a Satanic coven? And I thought, they're not going to advertise it in the town square. How am I going to find it? And I figured the best way to find it, because I knew in the swingers magazines, in the back, in the classified ads, there were Satanic covens advertised back there. So I might have to do something like that. But I found it instead because they advertised it in the town square. My school had a student union, and they had like the Baptist and the Catholic student union, and the Republican and the Democrat student union, and the Wiccan and the Satanic student union. And I went to their Satanic student union meeting one time. And this is a bunch of kids away from home for the first time with no adult supervision. And they think that Satan is all about taking drugs, getting drunk, having sex. Well, I've been doing that since I was 12. I don't need a Satanic coven for that. And these guys make up magic spells on the spot. They'll be getting drunk and they'll say, I'm going to pop open this beer can, take a drink, put the beer can in front of me, wave it over my head 3 times, and then I'm going to down the whole beer, shotgun it, and then I'm going to throw it in that trash can. And if I make it tomorrow, I'm going to be given a brand new truck for free. Like, that's not a magic spell.
It's
It's
just
a nice
nonsense.
wish, but it's nonsense. Yeah. And then they would make that up. And then the next day they wouldn't get a new truck and they'd be like, oh, well, it didn't work. Try it again next week.
So this is where we got to talk about the two different types of satanic covens, because there's obviously this Satanists that are worshiping the devil, but there's also Satanists that say they don't believe in God, don't believe in Satan. Can you explain what the difference is between these two, and how is it possible that there's two different kinds of Satanists?
Well, it's like I said before, there's probably 10,000 different covens, and there's like a coven for anything. There's covens out there for incest. There's human trafficking covens. There's drug covens. Anything that you can think of, there's a coven for it. But the very basic is there's atheistic and theistic. There's a coven called the Joy of Satan. They are in probably the top 5 biggest covens in the world. The Joy of Satan. And in the Joy of Satan, they're theistic. They believe in God and they believe in the devil. But they believe that God is the bad guy and Satan is the good guy. And they have their own manifesto. You can go, I don't know if it still is, but years ago, you used to be able to go to their website and they had their own manifesto written up where they tell you about God being the bad guy and Satan being the good guy.
And I've heard that from other people before. That's usually the tune that they have, that God is horrible. I see it in the comments a lot. A lot of people comment that either Jesus and Lucifer are the same person, or that Jesus and God is the bad guy and Satan is the good guy because he gives you whatever he wants. That's usually what I hear from people that do believe and that do worship Satan or Lucifer or whatever you want to call him. And then you said there's also atheistic covens.
Then there's atheistic who believe that Satan was the first rebel and he's a cool guy. He's not real. They don't really worship the entity Satan. They more worship Lucifer, and they don't really worship him at all. They don't believe he really existed. He was written in by the church to control the people, to make the people want to donate money to keep the devil at bay, or, for whatever reason, that they believe in science and logic, even though science and logic point to God.
Right.
They're obviously illogical because they're not seeing that connection. And they believe that they want you to keep your laws off their body. They want to worship whoever they choose to worship in their own way and do it all their way and not have anything to do with religion.
Okay, so let's go back to where we were at in your story. You were looking for a coven, and the only thing you could find, well, the first one you went to was just a bunch of kids doing like stupid stuff. They weren't actual Satanists, but you knew that magic was real. You had been doing it for a while. So I imagine you didn't stay there and you started looking for others. And eventually you came across the big deal, I would say, the big church. How did you find out about it, and what is it exactly?
I had been to this Satanic Coven meeting a couple of times, and the final straw for me was that I found out our coven meetings were on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, these guys would go to church. And they're not going there to break the church up. They're going there because they're Christian and they got to get sanctified and be ready to sin the rest of the week. And then come back there again on Sunday and get sanctified. It's like, what is the Satanic Coven you belong to? And they're like, it's just a club. We're not really Satanists. While I was looking for that coven, I had read a book at the library. And in the book, this guy talked about going to Bohemian Grove. And so I tried to find any other books about Bohemian Grove. And I could find books that reference Bohemian Grove, but nothing about Bohemian Grove. And trying to find it on a map wasn't doing that either. And trying to find somebody that had heard of it, I'd found like a random person here or there that's heard of Bohemian Grove and they know it's in California, but they don't know anything else about it. I had also got that same book referenced the Illuminati. And so I'm looking into the Illuminati to see if that's real. And I find a lot of references to the Illuminati, but nothing that really told me who they are and how to get in contact with them. Now, my first coven had been an OTO coven. And so I asked them, hey, you guys seem to be in the know about a lot of stuff. So I'm looking for a coven that might know something about Bohemian Grove, might know something about the Illuminati. I'm looking for a coven that's really nefarious, and nobody is. I'm not finding the group that is. I'm finding all the that are nots. Any ideas? Can you help me? And they told me that there was a coven called World Church of Satan or Satan's World Church. 2 different names, same coven. And they're also a Diablo sex coven. Now, my first coven was a Diablo sex coven also. And covens that embrace the name Diablo sex are into human trafficking, child prostitution, child pornography. And I was like, okay. So, that would be comfortable. I would understand that. And they gave me a phone number. And they said, call this number. It should work. If it doesn't work, call us back. So I called the number, and it was just a voicemail message, but it allowed me to leave a message. So I left the message of my name and my phone number, and that my coven had put me in contact with them. So it was a few days later, they called me back, and they told me to bring my ID, and there's going to be a party. And a lot of stuff happens at the party. So come prepared for whatever. And I'll probably have to park about 2 miles away. And the party starts at 9:00 at night. But people do get there sooner than that. So I went. It was about 9:00 at night when I got there. I drove all the way up to the building, and it's about the size of a super Walmart. And the whole building is shaking. Like you can tell there's like a huge party inside. And there's parking lots all around, but every parking lot is packed. So I had to drive about 2 miles away and then walk back. When I get back, I walk up and they ask me for my name. So I gave them my name and my ID. And they searched the list, found my name, checked me off, and welcomed me inside. They held the door open, and I walked inside and walked in a maze of black curtains. So you walk through like 5 little corridors of black curtains. And then the curtain opens up and you're standing there and there's like 10,000 people in this room. And there's like a DJ set up with people dancing. There's a rock band further in that are playing a live show. There's benches and couches and chairs, people sitting there talking. There's a table set up with pizza. There's another table set up with snack foods. And there's another table set up with beer. There's another table set up with hard liquor. And then there's tables set up with different drugs. So if you want to do mushrooms or smoke weed, there's a table for that. If you want to snort cocaine, there's a table for that. If you want to shoot up with heroin, there's a table for that. If you want to take MDMA and acid, there's a table for that. And, I'm watching the entire room. I'm walking all over the place. In the very back, far right corner, there's 5 or 6 giant beds all pushed together and about 20 people on them having sex. Everybody's naked. And this girl looks up and says, "You're free to join us. Just take off all your clothes and join us." You know, and this is like 1984. The AIDS crisis is in full swing. There's no way I'm jumping on this bed. Like, you guys have fun, knock yourself out. I'm going to go over here and look at something else. And I'm standing there talking to this guy. And he kind of looks like he's just alone and not quite sure what to think either. So I come up and strike up a conversation with him. Now, let's go back to me being 13 years old. When I was 13 years old, I was at a sleepover one night. And I got up about 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom and get a drink of water. And I saw this guy walking through the house. Never seen him before or since. But he's wearing a tuxedo, top hat, had a wand in his hands, and corpse paint on his face. He looked like a member of KISS wearing a tuxedo. And I was like, that is the coolest look ever. I don't know what that is, but I like it. And he looks at me, sees me, winks at me, keeps going. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I go to the bathroom, get my water, go back to bed. Next day, I approached somebody and I said, "Hey, I saw a guy here last night in a tuxedo with paint on his face. He looked like a member of KISS wearing a tuxedo. Who was that?" He goes, "You dreamed that." "What? You dreamed that? That didn't happen." Oh. So now my covenant's lying to me. No problem. I'll just lock that away somewhere in here. And one day I'll find out who that was.
So now we go back to the party.
Well, I'm at the party. I'm 18 years old. And similar look, not the same guy, but a similar look walks past me. Tuxedo, top hat, wand in his hand, corpse paint in his face. And I grabbed this guy and I was like, "Who is that? What is that? How can I do that?" And he was like, "Well, who ran your coven?" I said, "We had a huge coven, 125 to 150 members at any given time. And we're run by 13 high priests and priestesses. And the mage does the official magic. The mage wears the red robe." And he goes, "Okay." He says, "Well, we have 1.1 million members worldwide. And we're run by a CEO and board of directors. And the high wizard does the official magic." That was the high wizard. And I was like, "Whoa, how can I do that?" You have to get the devil's attention. It's said that the devil handpicks the high wizard. So, and I was like, "How do I get his attention?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm not a high wizard." So I knew that I had to get tied in with the high wizards. I know that abortion is what the devil wants. So I know abortion will get the devil's attention. So I decided that I was going to get tied in with the abortion group, let them know that I used to do them with my previous coven, and start getting in with them and doing as many as I can do. So I managed to do about 5 or 6 of them over the next few years, like 2 or 3 years. And I got to talk with some of the high wizards. And I told them that I wanted to be a high wizard. And they asked me why. And I said, "Well, I've been practicing magic since I was 10. I verified that it worked at 10. I then joined a satanic coven and became the mage. So I wore a red robe with a black inverted pentagram. And I did that from 13 to 18. And then I went in search of this coven. And I said, I saw a high wizard when I was 13 years old, but I didn't know that's what I was looking at. And since I figured out that's what you are, I would love to do your job. Just because I hear you guys practice magic all the time, and I love magic, and I'm good at it." And he goes, "Well, if you're going to be the high wizard, you got to be good at it. You have to have at least 90% accuracy."
Before we continue, can you explain what that is, the success rate and how that's calculated?
Once you do a magic spell, all stats are kept by the World Church of Satan in the office. There's people that follow your stats exact. You have 90 days for a spell to work. So let's say I did a spell for you and you paid my coven $100,000 for you to make $10 million, which may not be entered as $10 million. It may be just entered as a large sum of money. I have 90 days for that spell to work. Well, let's say, though, that it takes 91 days. On the 91st day, you get $10 million. I failed at my magic. That goes against me because it took 91 days instead of 90.
So this counts as a failure. It's not even, you don't get like half points because it came after.
Right.
This is total failure.
Total failure. Now, see, by the same token, if it works in one day, you don't get extra credit either. You get, it was successful. Now, the only difference is, let's say that we do a spell that's going to take place in 5 years or 10 years or at an undetermined place in the distant future. You get credit for those spells. They say it's not fair that it go against you just because it's going to be at maybe 20 years in the future. No one's going to watch that spell to see if it ever worked or not.
Right.
They don't care if it works. But if you're willing to go take a chance and do something that may or may not work, then they're willing to add your stats with it.
Okay, so let's go back because we're back in the story, and at that time you're not a high wizard yet. You talked to High Wizard, and he told you that you needed at least a 90% accuracy rate. And then I don't know how long, like what the span of time was, but one day you get a letter from the board of director of the World Church of Satan, which is the church that you went to with the big party, and you get a letter from them in the mail. What was your reaction to that?
Well, it's not just people that are being invited to be the High Wizard that get those. Sometimes you get one of those because you did something wrong and you brought shame or a scrutinizing eye upon the ministry, and they didn't want that scrutinizing eye. And some people show up and they're never seen or heard from again. And then I get this letter in the mail, postcard actually, and I thought, what if this isn't good news? So I went to my local gun store, and in Florida, there's a 2-week cooling off period to buy a handgun. That's almost exactly the time I needed. I picked out a 9mm 6 Sauer and about 10 additional clips and about 200 rounds of ammo and a clip belt. So I show up for my meeting, and I don't know what to expect. I don't know, is this going to be a good event? Am I going to be shot? I didn't want anyone to be able to get behind me. And luckily, they issued me in, and they ushered me into this room, and it was this big plush leather chair, and it was pushed up against the wall. So no one's going to get behind me. And they set me down, and there's the entire board of directors isn't there, but the CEO was there. And we're talking, and he says, basically in a nutshell, Satan has chosen you to be the next High Wizard. And my heart skipped a beat, and I was like, really? Why? And they just brushed over that. They didn't say why or how. They gave me this light blue book, and it was called the High Wizard Handbook. And it's just a bunch of drawings. So on the cover is a picture of a High Wizard that's been drawn. And then you open it up. The first page says, no one can tell you what to do. And that was like my favorite day. I was like, no one? He said, look, once you're the high wizard, it's up to you whether you do the magic spell or not. We may come to you and say, somebody paid us $1 million. Here's the spell. You can look at it and decide whether you're going to do it or not. You don't have to do it. There's 9 others of you guys. And there's between 2 and 5 in the world. The number could be as low as 1 or as high as 10.
So Satan picked you to be one of the 10 or however many number, but maximum of 10 high wizards in the world. And from what I understand, these, in terms of on this planet, these are the 10 most powerful people on Earth, right? Pretty much.
Magically speaking, yes. And, you know, these guys are sought after by everyone. Actors, rock stars, kings, queens, presidents, diplomats. Everybody that wants a magic spell and knows that they can get one from somebody that is reputable and it works. I mean, if you really want to spend $200 on a spell on eBay, you can do that if you want to. You have no guarantee that's going to work. You know, our work isn't exactly 100% ironclad. I mean, you may ask for $1 million and get 100,000, but you got something. 100,000 is better than 0 you're going to get on eBay.
And so you become the high wizard, Satan handpicks you. And that's when we get into the Illuminati and Bohemian Grove and Bilderberg Group.
My first month, I was chosen almost on my 21st birthday. And it was a few days later, I found myself in Bohemian Grove. Now, when I heard I was going, I was thinking, I wonder if they're going to take me to a bar that's called the Bohemian Grove. Like, is it a real place? Is this like a restaurant in Dubuque, Iowa or something? You know, I have no idea. And then, you know, I ended up, you know, the plane lands in California. And then we landed in San Francisco. And we went to, I think it's in Monterey. And, you know, it's like 2,600 acres of redwood trees. Like, this does not sound exciting. And my first day, I'm dressed. I travel with a makeup artist, and she also gets me dressed. And if you're female, you're not really supposed to be there. So my makeup artist is a female. Some of the wait staff are females, and they all have to sign non-disclosure agreements.
So you're talking, no females are allowed in Bohemian Grove.
Right. So, but like I said, my makeup artist is a female. So I have my own trailer when I'm there. And she puts on my makeup and helps me put my costume on. And out the door I go. This is my first official job.
Your first job as a high wizard was to go to Bohemian Grove?
Right. And just so in case your listeners are curious, what does a high wizard look like? As I've described, it's a tuxedo of some sort, a corpse paint on your face, a top hat, and a wand or a cane. I chose a cane because I thought, let's bring a little class. Because a wand looks hokey. It looks like, I don't know, it just doesn't look real.
Yeah. I'll put a picture up if I remember for people to see kind of what it looks like.
If you go to YouTube and look up the artist Pink, the official video of Like a Pill, she has a high wizard that appears in her video 4 times. The final 2 times, he's in the middle of a ritual or a spell. And so I step out the door dressed like this, and I don't know, do these people see eye wizards on a regular basis? I don't know. Am I the first one they're going to see? Or am I old hat? Is everybody used to seeing me? And I stepped out the door, walked about 10 feet. Some guy came up to me, shook my hand, welcomed me to the Grove, and said he's been waiting for me. And I said, who am I to you? He said, you're the High Wizard. You're the guy that makes all of our dreams come true. May not exactly be the dream I'm looking for, but I know the routine. So, all right. So while I was there, I met with the Illuminati. Now they have a Mr. Black and a Mr. White. Now, the first time you meet them, nothing special. But the next time you meet them, Mr. Black and Mr. White are not the same Mr. Black and Mr. White.
What do you mean?
Mr. Black and Mr. White change every time you meet them. It's a different Mr. Black and Mr. White. But every time you speak to them, I don't know if what you're saying is being recorded or if they take excellent notes. But let's say you met with one of them today. 2 weeks from now, you met with two different Mr. Black and Mr. White. 3 weeks from then, you met with another set of Mr. Black and Mr. White that you've never met before. And you want to talk about a conversation you had two Mr. Black and Mr. Whites ago, but you don't know if they know about it. So you bring up, listen, about a month ago, I was having a conversation, and they'll start telling you about the conversation. Well, you said this, and we said that, and you said that, and you said this. Well, which part are you having a conversation? Which part do you mean? So I tell them the part, and they jump right into where they were, except it wasn't them. And they tell me the conversation, and they're able to tell me, the part that I'm having a problem on, I'm remembering it incorrectly. And they tell me what was said.
I have a question. Are they humans?
They are humans.
How's that possible?
I don't know how that's possible.
Thank you for watching part 1 of Zachary's story. We ran out of time and had to schedule a part 2 that you absolutely won't want to miss. If it's already out, I put the video here, but if it's not, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. And as always, if you want to hear the beginning of this conversation, head over to Locals where you'll get access to the unreleased footage of the interview. I'll see you in part 2, but in the meantime, enjoy your day and stay blessed.